Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. I am Tim Kernan alongside Mike Freshwater. We are coming to you on a Thursday night special here of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Mike, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I've taken care of business today, got all my retiree work done. My golf course grass and my yard, and so I'm showered and ready to go, man.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. So, Mike, you and I have actually been going at it pretty hard here for about 8 straight months. You and I, of course, covered high school football here locally for Alter High School, and then we went into the basketball season. You coach and joined me on the broadcast. And last weekend we did a show with Coach Coulter, kind of covering the championship season for the Alter Knights. But I wanted to get back together tonight to maybe cover a little bit of college football, as most teams are kind of wrapping up their spring practice seasons and have culminated in their spring games. Notre Dame actually has their game this weekend, and I'm actually going to attend that game.
Awesome.
Believe it or not, so I'll have a nice report.
Give me an ETA or an approximate guess on how many people they'll have at that game.
Well, they're not going to have as many as Ohio State did.
80,000.
80,000. That's incredible. I mean,
it is incredible. I don't know if it was free or whether they were giving away beer or what it was, but 80,000 is insane. I'm not sure I would pay to go watch a scrimmage, but if there's nothing else to do on a nice spring Saturday afternoon, I guess you go and do that. But there were 8 to 10 major colleges that had their spring games. Ohio State had the most at 80, but several of the others were in the 40, 50, 60,000 range. And so a big thirst out there for college football here in the middle of April.
Well, they certainly had beautiful weather too, and that doesn't hurt. I know they're expecting a nice day up in South Bend on Saturday. It's going to be a little cool, I think, like in the 50s, 60s, yeah. But I think it's going to be sunny, and it's not going to be raining. So I would expect up at Notre Dame maybe 40, maybe 50,000.
30 or 40?
Yeah. Now, I know there's a pretty positive vibe up there right now.
We'll make a side bet. Over-under is 40,000. You going over?
I'm going to go over.
Over 40,000. All right. We'll make sure to remember that the next podcast.
All right. So you're going the other way?
No, I don't know what to expect. 40,000 sounds about right. I have no idea what they drew last year.
40 is about half of the stadium.
Yeah, and I don't know what else is going on up there, if anything. So wouldn't be shocked one way or the other. But 40,000 is, if that's where they land, is a pretty respectable number for sure.
Yeah, and again, I think that the vibe is pretty positive up there. So
That's
I don't know.
Exciting.
They may not expect guys like me to go to the game, so they may not know how many people are going to show up for that one. But that'll be interesting. I mean, there'll be a lot going on, a lot of things to look for. I wanted to ask you, Mike, though, what do you look for as far as takeaways from a spring game? Because you're not going to get many or any big picture type answers as far as the upcoming season.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Ohio State last weekend, and I don't really have expectations of that. I mean, you want to see the new guys, and of course nowadays there's a whole bunch of new guys. But you want to see how the new guys do, both the transfers that come in through the portal and then the highly touted freshmen. And, the one thing that stood out to me, and I spent more time watching highlights than the whole thing, was, and his name escapes me right now for some reason, the wide receiver from Miami, a true freshman, was unbelievable. I mean, he was Marvin Harris-like. And I don't know why I can't remember his name, but I expect, after watching that, I expect that dude to be like, really have a really good season. But for me, I mean, it's just to see some of these new guys and what they do, but you can't take a whole lot out of it. The coaches themselves, they have to go back and watch the video over and over and over and slow it down and replay it and all that stuff before they grade everybody out. But, and they're playing each other. But my expectation for Ohio State in their past spring game was the quarterback, the new running back, the new wide receiver, and then the defense in its entirety as a whole, because I've been reading multiple articles now the last couple of weeks where people at the national level think that may be the best defense in the country. And so we'll see.
Well, I know you and I talked several times as the last season was kind of wrapping up. We kind of felt, that Ohio State is certainly going to have one of the premier defenses
Well,
heading into next year. And I
yeah.
mean, they've only added
They've
through
only
the
added-
portal.
They've only added.
Yeah, through the portal and through, new recruits.
Right.
They've just made it stronger.
Yes, they have. They have absolutely. The expectations are through the roof, and Jim Knowles has to be just licking his chops at what he has to work with over there, and not just the starting 11, but the depth that they possibly are going to have, and we'll see. We'll see. They get tested relatively early when they play Oregon, but I'm trying to taper my enthusiasm and not think too much about it until August rolls around.
Well, and Jeff Gilbert is supposed to join us in a few moments. Mike, he's certainly the Gamecast radio insider.
He is.
He covers Ohio State, so we'll get his reaction.
Yeah, hopefully.
But I also wanted to ask you, did you get a kind of a feeling, again, it's just a spring game, but did you get a feel for maybe how Chip Kelly's offense is going to operate up at Ohio State, or is it really too early to tell?
A little. I don't know what their emphasis was going to be offensively in terms of who they wanted to, how they wanted to look at guys. But, they're going to be up tempo. I think you got a little bit of that. Hard to tell for certain, but Ryan Day played quarterback for Chip Kelly in college. So how about that relationship?
You and I had talked about that before.
So I think a little bit, but again, another guy has just got to be licking his chops at what he has potentially to work with from a resource perspective. They look to be loaded across the board, and from a weapons perspective, and that, like I said, that freshman quarterback, and I'll think of his name before we get done here, from Miami, man, he's lights out.
Now, let's see, is that I can't remember. I thought I came across his name too, but I apologize. I can't remember. But Mike, I would consider players to watch for Ohio State. Certainly our very own C.J. Hicks, who played at Alter High School. I heard some rumors that he is definitely going to see the field this season. And Caleb Downs, who transferred out of Alabama to Ohio State. Is he considered a cornerback or a safety? I can't remember. But certainly in that defensive backfield, he is going to make them even stronger than they already are.
Jeremiah Smith.
Okay, yeah, that does sound familiar.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith.
And
I'm excited for CJ. I hope that's all true and that he does get his chance. He's waited patiently now for 2 years and did not transfer.
Yeah,
which is unusual because guys who get a little antsy in terms of their playing time after a couple of years might otherwise jump into the portal. But obviously haven't talked to him or had any contact with him in a while, but good for him. He's sticking it out, and hopefully he becomes the main part of that defense over there.
And ironically, anybody who's watched our shows knows that you're the Ohio State fan. I'm the Notre Dame fan. But as far as 2025 recruits, Ohio State has now jumped Notre Dame in the recruiting rankings. I know it is still very early, but Ohio State has the number one ranked recruiting class now for 2025. But Notre Dame is number two. And again, Jeff will join us here in a few moments, and we'll get back to Ohio State. But I'll give a little update on Notre Dame. As I mentioned, they have now the number two ranked class for 2025, 19 commitments. And as I mentioned, behind Ohio State, they have a lot of visitors coming in this weekend, Mike, to the spring game. A lot of players that already are quote-unquote committed, verbally committed, but they have a lot of players that they're interested in offering. So it's going to be a big weekend for Notre Dame.
It is, and I could only conclude that their ranking, Jeff, I'm going to call Jeff, their ranking is a sign that they've kind of jumped into the NIL pool a little bit, because that's really kind of what it takes nowadays to come up with certainly a top five recruiting classes. You have to be, unfortunately, you have to be willing to pay guys, and I'm guessing that's kind of what is happening up there. If you know maybe a little better than I do. Yeah,
they certainly took their time, if you will, to try to get it right, and they want to do it the right way. They're not into the pay for play. I think that they are, going to set up the NIL program after the players have arrived, which is what I believed was the intent for NIL to start all along. So, believe it or not, Brady Quinn, who was a former quarterback at Notre Dame, is kind of in charge. He's running this program up at Notre Dame. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to hear all this crap about how much money teams are spending, and Ohio State spent more money than anybody else. I'm sorry. That's the model.
Well,
get with it or don't get with it.
If you're not going to do it, you're going to be left behind.
Correct. So
until they, make a change, that's the way it's going to be. But the jewel so far for Notre Dame is Deuce Knight. He's a 5-star quarterback out of Mississippi. Certainly they're doing everything they can to hold on to him. But I thought it was interesting, Mike. Notre Dame has some NFL offspring that they've recruited in the past couple of years. A couple of them for the 2025 class, Anthony Sacca, who is a son to Tony Sacca, who played at Penn State. Jerome Bettis Jr. and Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the son of Bryant Young, who was an all-pro defensive lineman at the San Francisco 49ers, and is also, I think he's up to become a Hall of Famer this year.
What position does Jerome Bettis Jr. play?
He is actually a wide receiver, believe it or not.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
He's probably a big one.
He's tall, and he's a lot thinner than his dad. But we'll see what happens.
I can't imagine the real Jerome Bettis or the original as a wide receiver, but that kind of happens, Kids end up being a little bit different, and good for him. That's awesome that he has his son at Notre Dame.
That was my heyday, Mike.
I
was a young, late teens, early 20s. When Bettis was around, but boy, that was the sweet spot right there.
He was tough. When did he become the bus?
I think he became the bus when he actually got to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he was drafted by the Rams.
Yeah.
And then he went to Pittsburgh,
right, yep.
and that's really where he flourished.
Yep.
So, and I believe, folks, that we are going to be joined now by Jeff Gilbert. Jeff writes for the Dayton Daily News, and he also covers Ohio State football and basketball and baseball, I believe, as well, through PressPros.com. Jeff, are you with us?
I am here.
There he is.
Jeff,
I'm standing here. I'm standing here trying to think. Jerome Bettis Jr., what his nickname will be. Is he the minivan? Or
I'm sure they'll come up with something, Jeff.
Yes. If he's a wide receiver, he's probably more like a something sleek and fast, like a Corvette or something like that.
I would take good and somebody who can catch.
Yeah. Especially now, recently Notre Dame has not had the best luck with their wide receiving core.
Well, you had a rocket once in the past.
Yes, right.
I would take another one of those in a New York.
Hey,
one of the most fun guys to ever watch play college football.
It
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Notre Dame fan or not.
Yeah, agreed. If you didn't hear it, Tim's going to the spring game up there on Saturday.
I am.
Yeah, he told me that.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he's telling everybody to listen.
Well,
he's
Jeff,
got the over on the 40,000 or more people.
They're not going to get 80. I know that. So.
No, they're not.
Well, Jeff,
what's up, guys?
We did discuss a little bit about Ohio State before you jumped on today, but I know you went to the game. Give us your overall feeling about how the game went. I said this to Mike. You're not going to get any big picture answers probably from a spring game, but what was your feeling after that ball game on Saturday?
Well, I think I'll start with the quarterback position. I think Will Howard is going to be pretty good. I liked some film. I watched some Kansas State game stuff of him, and then some people have done some film study stuff online. I watched a little bit of that. Just a couple more looking at his decision making in certain instances, breaking down film was impressive to me. Pocket presence. Ryan Day talked about his pocket presence. Just knowing, in other words, knowing what to do at that moment, and being able to feel the rush and look downfield at the same time. And I think he has that. So I think his experience is there. I don't think there's any doubt he'll be the guy. The other guys were consistent. I just can't see Devin Brown beating him out. He can bring out Kyle McCord, so I just don't think that's going to happen from a quarterback standpoint. So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, any names kind of stand out as far as the performance goes? I know a lot of times in these spring games they kind of divide the roster up, so it's hard to get a real good feel
Well,
for
it was all offense
each
versus
side.
defense.
Yeah.
Offense it was the offense versus the defense the whole time. They didn't have they didn't split it.
Oh,
They didn't
okay.
split the offense up. No, it was totally just the offense versus the defense. So the ones mostly went against the ones and twos against the twos a lot, but not 100%. I thought the secondary looked really good. The offense with Howard, they got down in the red zone once in the first half, and he found the one-on-one matchup 3 straight times in the end zone, and the receiver was completely blanketed every time. And this was Ibuka and, the new freshman, Jeremiah Smith, that everybody's salivating about
Okay.
and everything. So, I mean, it wasn't like he was trying to throw to third-teamers. And so I think that secondary is really, really good.
How does Caleb Downs look in an Ohio State uniform?
Well, he looks good. I mean, he didn't make any plays. There wasn't anything like a play to make for him, but he was there and seemed to be, in the right spot where he's supposed to be and so forth. Like, you didn't notice him. Sometimes a safety, if you don't notice him, that's a pretty good thing. Usually when they get burnt, it's when you notice them. So I think he'll be fine. And, I just think, I tell you, kid that played the most snaps was Aaron Scott from Springfield, freshman. He played 70-some snaps in that. I don't know if that means anything or not, but that was noticeable that he played the most. And so I think he's a guy who's going to be. He's blocked by older guys right now, but I think he'll be a good cornerback there eventually.
2 questions. First, about older grad C.J. Hicks. Did he play a lot? Did he look good? What do you think?
Yeah, he played quite a bit. I think he was mixing in there and playing a lot. And I think he was fine. Didn't notice anything wrong that he did wrong. I mean, I think Knowles likes him. But, Knowles doesn't play doesn't play a 3 linebacker set very often. So that makes it tough because Simon's back and they like him. And you got Sonny Styles moving into that position.
Right.
And so it's tough. But I think he'll play. I think he'll play more this year for sure. I don't know if he'll be considered a starter or not, but he'll play more. I think there's no doubt about that.
And what were your impressions of Julian Sane?
He was inconsistent. One drive, he just couldn't hit anybody, and then the next drive he was on target. So, played like a freshman in that sense. Made a couple really good throws, and then just threw the ball way behind. I think he got intercepted once. Made just was that all on him, or was that a receiver going one way and he thought he was going the other way? I don't know.
Right.
But he didn't look bad, but it's like, he didn't come out and make anybody look great either. It's like one thing I wrote about it was like Howard didn't do anything to lose a job, looked good enough, and against that first team defense probably played as well about as anybody's going to play against that first team defense all season.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's you're also comparing. You're watching him. Like I said, that he drove him down to the red zone, and then nobody could get open.
Right.
And that's a good sign for that defense. You know how that is. You get down there, if you can stop people in the red zone, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jeff, I asked Mike this earlier. I did not see the Ohio State spring game, but wanted to ask you a little bit about Chip Kelly. What's your feeling about the offense under Chip Kelly? And did you see anything different, anything noticeably different since he has taken over the offensive coordinator position?
Well, the guys are talking like they like some of his running plays. It sounds like he's being creative, and he's got 2 really good tailbacks, halfbacks, or whatever you want to call them these days, to work with.
Right.
Some of the film study stuff I watched online, I thought I saw like some kind of a trap play inside once, and it was really kind of a I'm mixing stuff up, but it was more of a one play was an RPO that they ran, and the defense sniffed it out, the run part of it, and Howard found the guy open for a slant that probably would have picked up 20 yards. They weren't tackling at that point. So I think he's going to be good at being deceptive, and I think the more weapons you have, the more deceptive you can be, because you don't have to just ride. You don't have to just ride one or two things. When you got lots of options and weapons, you can trick people all day long and make a play with somebody. Somebody's going to make a play just about every time if they block it well. And I think the offensive line looked pretty good. There was one play when against the first team that, and this was that who was it? Somebody came on a kind of a stunt. One of the defensive ends, it was JT Tuimoloau came. He was on the right side. He came around off the stunt wide open to Howard, and Howard just did a really nice job backing up, shuffling, and then he hit a receiver before JT could get him. I'm like, okay, the offensive line had a breakdown, which they're going to at times.
Yeah. But
Will Howard showed that he could make something out of that, whereas Kyle McCord would have got sacked or just thrown it out of bounds.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. And I thought that was like a key play, because that's all you can kind of do is look for little things, because you're not going to have a whole game body of work to look at and say, so you just little plays like that. I think showed that I think they're going to be good, and I think Kelly's going to be able to mix it up and really, be creative. And at the same time, it's easy. Like I said, it's easy to be creative when, who should I hand it off to Travion Harrison, or should I throw it to Emeka Ibuka? It's pretty good options.
Yeah, I was just going to say
he's got some weapons,
thing.
man. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to run the ball.
Yeah.
Right. And
I've written about that a million times. Yeah.
Yep. So hopefully that's something that, and that's all offensive line dependent. I mean, they've got two potential all-league, all-conference running backs, and so it's going to be up to the offensive line to make that happen. And so that's something I don't know if we really got a read on Saturday, but certainly will next.
Not heavily, but I think they can run. I think they can run left really well. Those guys, I think Jackson and Simmons are back, and I think that'll be fine. What happens on the right side, because they're still trying to figure out what to do at center, right guard, and
right.
I think Pryor's going to be a right tackle, but I think McLaughlin will be the center. It's like who's going to be the right guard.
Okay.
I think is what it comes down to. But I think McLaughlin played well. So.
Good.
And Jeff, I didn't actually hear him say it or see the interview, but I read it that someone actually asked Chip Kelly why he left UCLA and came to Ohio State, and it was kind of what we kind of thought might be the case, but Chip Kelly basically said, I don't want to deal with all the nuances of being head coach anymore. I just want to coach. And I thought that was great. I thought it was very honest of him. It was refreshing.
Yeah. He said that back earlier right after he got there, the first time they brought him out. The media was there that day, and the first time they brought him out, and he talked about that, and I think that there's a lot of truth in that. Ryan Day talked about wanting to be the CEO and run and that's why he's got guys like Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles there. And then here's Chip Kelly's like, I've had enough of being CEO. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to coach football.
Yeah.
And I think he's honest about that. I think that's truly what he wants to do. And if that, so mindset's everything, right, on a lot of cases. And if Chip Kelly was just here because he had to leave UCLA and he really still wanted to be a head coach, I don't think you'd get as much out of Chip Kelly as you will get out of Chip Kelly if that is honestly how he feels. Because if he just wants to coach ball, you're going to get even more out of him than if he was just waiting for the next job.
Yeah. Jeff, a couple more things, if you don't mind, if you got a few minutes.
No, I got time.
Okay.
I got time. I'm at the I'm at Day Air Ballpark Dragons game tonight to cover, but it doesn't start till after 7, so I got some time.
All right, good. Well, the high school basketball season just wrapped up here in Ohio. You, of course, cover that for the Dayton Daily News. But, all season long, of course, we've been telling everybody that Mike and I cover Alter High School, and Mike also coaches for the boys basketball team. He's an assistant coach, and then he, throughout the season, helped me on the broadcast. But the Alternites advanced all the way to the state final and won the game. They beat Maysville. Just kind of wanted not only to get your kind of feelings about maybe the Final Fours that took place at the University of Dayton-Reno, but maybe your recap of the season at large.
At large? Well, okay, how much time you got? No, just kidding. I think, locally speaking, we knew it was not a surprise that Russia would get there, and that Russia was the only team that could give Richmond Heights a game, and they did.
Yeah.
They battled them for 3 quarters, kind of like the year before, played them good for 3 quarters, and then Richmond was just too much.
Poor Colin White. I mean, how many years in a row now did he lose that game? It's like,
you're right. He's lost in Division 3. He keeps losing in Division 3.
right.
And so they lost again, and I think and then Preble got there on the backs of Mason Shroud, who I don't know if you got to see Preble at all. I don't know if you guys ever get to see him play.
Yeah, I did a couple times. So they were at the Flying to the Hoop, and we got them a couple times on Huddle when we were scouting Fenwick and Bacon.
Yeah, he can play.
Yeah.
And I think it was great that he got. I was really happy for that kid because I've been covering him since he's a freshman. I was really happy for a kid like that who
Great kid.
plays as hard and works as hard as anybody else.
You're right.
And nobody outworks that kid. I mean, there's other kids you can talk about, other kids that play hardest, are great hard workers, and he's right there with anybody. So I just was really happy for him to get in that moment because that kid, he is the farthest thing from a prima donna that there can be.
Right.
Loves his team and just was so happy to be there and play.
Sure.
And then went and played hard. So that was fun.
And off the court, just an outstanding person. Just off the court.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got to write a feature story about him leading up to the state.
Yep.
Yeah, how cool that was.
Yep.
And then we'll save Alter for last. I think people kept asking me, could Centerville get there? And I was like, what are they going to do this year? And I said this to Brooke after he got beat, and he agreed with me. I said, I thought all along people would say that, and they're vulnerable enough to lose in the districts, but they're also good enough to get to state if they play well. And he's like, yeah, I agree, totally agree with that. And that's what they were. I may have said that on here before. So, kudos to them for getting there again. I think in some ways, I think they maximized who they are, which is always his goal. Just be as good as let's maximize who we are, whether we win a state title or not. I mean, a lot of coaches think that way, right? Let's just be the best we can be. And I think getting there was kind of that, but they didn't play that great against Ignatius. And I think in that game, I don't think he felt like they probably did. He didn't really say that, but
they shot poorly. I mean, they had a bad shooting night. Yeah,
they did, and that's haunted them a couple times in the state. And but I saw Ignatius at Flying to the Hoop, and when I saw them at Flying to the Hoop, I thought, I don't know who's going to beat this team.
Right.
And then they ended up winning it. So, good for them. And then your guys. I mean, I was really happy for them. I like Eric a lot. We get along well, and I enjoyed your show last week where you guys talked to him the whole time. I watched that.
Glad you watched it.
That was it was. I enjoyed that, and I just there's a group that does it the right way. Kids play hard. I don't know where you'd be without Joe Brand.
He was fantastic.
He makes plays, but I think he makes everybody else play harder.
Absolutely.
I think there's a leadership quality in that. Is he going to go play anywhere?
Yeah, he had plans. I'm not going to mention specifics, but he had plans before the tournament started, and I don't know if he quote unquote committed, but after the tournament, he got more interest, right? Yeah. I recall back in the day when Dunbar won the state, Norris Cole was committed to Walsh or Malone, right? But then had a great state run, especially the weekend of the state, and ends up going to Cleveland State on a full ride.
Yeah, Cleveland State.
And set records there, right? So
exactly, and then played and then made it to the NBA.
Yeah, so. Right. Similar to what happened to Joe. I mean, he gets in front of all those people at UD Arena and just does his thing, right? And all of a sudden that opened up a few more eyes, and he's got a couple more options that are probably a little higher level than what he was quote unquote settling for by the end of the season. And so he told me he's going to keep me posted on what he decides. But a lot of people underestimate the exposure you get at that tournament. The semifinals and the finals can make a big difference for you.
Well, and Jeff mentioned it. I mean, he's the kind of player that a coach loves to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 25 charges or whatever, some ridiculous number.
That's correct.
That kind of stuff. I mean, coaches love the guy who will get on the floor. They'll love the guy that'll take the charge. You need the guy that can score and shoot, but you love that guy more than anything. The guy that'll jump over the bench and save a ball from going out of bounds. I mean, when you have a guy like that on your team, it makes your team a lot better, not just because of the things he does, but the influence of that mentality on the rest of your team.
Absolutely.
I think makes a big difference.
And we're going to miss that next year. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but that's something we're going to have to replace somehow or another. I don't know if you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Because you got some good pieces back, but that's a big piece.
Yep.
All the intangibles of that, so those are hard to replace.
So let me ask you. Of course, we were sitting not too far from you. That Shelby Maysville game, how good was that?
It was one of the best games, maybe the best game that's been played at UD Arena.
I was going to ask you that since you saw them all that weekend. I only saw the D2 games in person. I saw the rest of them on TV, but that game was spectacular. It was.
Yeah, it was.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead. And just it was the play, and it was the crowds, it was the atmosphere, it was everything.
Yep.
And then Maysville brought it for the final too. I mean,
they did.
That's it was like their game. It was literally their game of the century. So.
Yes.
Well, and it's funny. That's exactly what I was just about to say. The atmosphere was phenomenal. I know it was for the Shelby Maysville game, but it was for the final as well. Alder showed up well, and of course Maysville, I think, brought the whole town of Zanesville with them.
Man.
They were fantastic. I mean, it was a great crowd. But I want to, UD, of course, I'm selfishly speaking, because I went to Dayton, but I mean, the tournament, they just put on a great show, I think, Jeff. I know they have it for a couple more years. Do you think they have a chance of keeping it beyond that?
Yes.
You say no, or you say
so.
Yes? I say yes. Yeah, Ohio State doesn't want it. Right.
Yeah, unless Ross Bjork, the new AD, changes things. But they don't want him because, see, they hosted. I mean, their women's basketball team is in for the foreseeable future is in position to host early round NCAA tournament games right now.
Yeah.
And they hosted games. They hosted while the state boys tournament was going on, so they don't want to give that up. They have a chance also for hockey to be there at that time of year.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win for everybody, and they don't want it. They don't want it. And Ohio State, I mean, St. John, the floor is the floor is a mess, so you can't have anything there. And I don't think Ohio State wants to fix it. I think they wish that place would just go away, but but that's the only other good venue for it. Now the problem is that starting next year, it's not going to be a Final Fours there. It's just going to be championship games.
Yeah.
And that's the big downside of this division. That's one of the big downsides of 7 divisions.
Yeah.
I had no problem with them splitting up Division I some. I don't know. 7 might have gone too far, but I'm willing to give it time and see what happens. And we tend to get used to things like this after a while, and it doesn't bother us.
Right.
How many complaints have we had about Major League Baseball expanding playoffs and all that? And now everybody seems to like it.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when they went from AAA to AAA AAA, because I played back then. And then I remember, I also remember them going to Divisions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everybody complained every step of the way.
Yes.
And I'm also like you. I'm going to wait.
But now it's like there's 4 divisions that's been around for 100 years. That's why everybody asks.
Right.
But I will say this. I'm happy. One of the reasons why I'm really happy and proud of us winning it this year is because it is the last year of that 4-division format.
I totally
It's
agree.
going to get easier. I don't care how you slice it or dice it. You're going to play fewer games. You're going to have fewer teams you're turning a 220 team tournament into a 120 team tournament, and it's going to be quote unquote easier. I'm just saying, multiple reasons depending on the division, but
you're not going to run into a St. Vincent St. Mary team like you did 3 years ago either.
That is not going to happen. No.
Now, the other thing that could happen is that there is this referendum before there's a thing up for vote before the membership about if you want to play up to Division I, you can.
Yes.
And I think that's got a good chance to pass, from what I hear.
Yes.
I don't know that for a fact, and I think so. From my understanding, is it's not if you want to play up, you got to go all the way to 1. It's not just play up from 3 to. You can't just play up from 4 to 3.
Correct. That's a correct statement.
So, Richmond Heights should go Division I next year if they can.
Yeah,
they should. There's no reason for them not to. They've proven it. Right. They beat St. Ignatius last year during the season.
Right.
So, I mean, there's no reason for them not to do that. Right. And I think, like, Purcell Marion and girls will do the same thing.
Right.
So
certainly if they want to be challenged,
They should. Go prove it. Don't stay down here, because if you can go up and you don't, then everybody takes you even less seriously.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So you've got to go there and prove and say, hey, this is who we that's what they got. They should. Yeah. And I suppose every year or two you'll be able to drop yourself back down, I suppose.
I think it's an annual thing. It's an annual thing. You have to apply for it. It has to be approved, and it only lasts for 1 year.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, before we let you go, what do you got going on this summer? And
a lot of dragons.
Okay.
If you want to, for Reds fans out there, there's a pitcher here by the name of Rhett Lauder.
Ooh.
Who was their number 1 pick last year out of Wake Forest.
Throwing it hard.
He's pitching he's pitching Friday night, tomorrow night. I don't think he'll be here any later than the 1st of June. He'll move up. So if you want to see him, pay attention when he's going to throw and come out and see him, because I think the pitching coach here just raves about him. I mean, he's not like a 100-mile-an-hour thrower or anything like that.
Right.
He's more low mid-90s guy, but he's got high IQ on the mound. He's just really, really good. And he pitched in their opener, and he dominated. He gave up 1 run in a road game last week, and then he's pitching tomorrow night. And the other guy, and then they got some good bats, young bats. They got a kid named Cam Collier, who I just talked to today. I'm going to write something about. His dad played in the majors, was a journeyman type of player. So it's probably not a name you know, but he's 19. He doesn't turn 20 till November. He hit in every game this year until last night. He's already got 3 homers. He's a left-handed hitting third baseman. He was our first-round pick years ago. So those are, and there's some other guys that are good too, but those are the 2 names that stand out to me so far. And so I think they're going to have a good season. If you remember, Josh Harrison played for the Pirates mostly.
Yep. Princeton kid.
From Princeton. His older brother, Vince, who also played at Princeton, is the manager.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He played at Princeton and played at UK, basketball and football, or football and baseball at UK. So Vince played in the minor leagues for a long time. They were made to the majors. He's been in the coaching the Reds organization for a few years, and he's the manager this year. He's a good dude, and he's loving being the manager here because he lives down around like Westchester somewhere.
Yeah, nice.
So, and Josh will be here some because Josh is with a team right now. Nobody's picked him up. The Reds didn't keep him, and so he's a free agent right now. But so it's a good. It's a fun team to watch. They got a lot of guys that can swing the bat well, and I think they got some good arms. So I think they're going to win more than their share this year. It looks like, at least starting out.
Awesome.
Well, that sounds good, Jeff. Jeff, tell everybody where they can find you. I know I love following your work. You always do a nice job covering not only local sports, but of course for Ohio State as well. So please tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, on Twitter or X, I'm at JW_Gilbert, and then I write for the Dayton Daily News, and I also write for that's mostly high school stuff and Dragons, and then for PressProsMagazine.com. That's where my Ohio State stuff is, mostly football. Really, I'm the main football guy. I help out a little bit with baseball if they need it, and I did some basketball this year because some help was needed. But really, my focus is football, and so looking forward to that. And, one other thing, if I could mention about the Alter experience,
Sure.
state tournament,
Please.
was getting to talk to Coach Petroselli after the game.
Yeah, I saw you doing that.
And that was, well, shout out to his daughter, Mary Jo, for helping me get that accomplished. She helped me get that accomplished. And then, of course, I got to, I wrote a follow-up piece about Eric and Coach Petro.
Right.
And really enjoyed getting to write that story as much as anything. So
It's fantastic.
it was really fun to talk to him. I'd never met him before. And of course, when I was a kid growing up, I would go to UD Arena and watch regionals and districts and see him coaching, right? And coaching great teams. So it was just a real, it was a blast to just get to talk to him, and he was
That's
great.
One of his favorite things, and I don't know if he mentioned it to you, was he likes to tell everybody he's the second winningest coach at UD Arena history.
Yeah,
he's literally won like 100 games.
He told me that. I think did I put that in my story?
You might have. Yeah,
It
probably.
was something in there because he is won over 100 games there.
It's insane,
crazy.
isn't it?
Because he coached 200 games. He's coached over 200, so I know he's won over 100. But yeah, second winningest coach in UD Arena history. I
That's
know.
awesome.
I know. That's classic.
It is absolutely
It
classic.
really
That's
is.
just great. So, but it was great. Mary Jo's great. She's really helpful with all the Alter records. She knows
Yeah.
she's got every record imaginable, and
They
she's
do.
helpful to me with that. If you ever see me having records of when they last won this or how many of these they won in a story, it's because I got it from her.
Yep.
I don't keep track of that.
It's a booklet, and I tell everybody that will hear me, it's because Petro never left. He was there the whole time from start to when he started the program, retired.
Right.
Mary
exactly.
Jo stuck it out, and she's the keeper of
She
the
is.
data.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a booklet that she updates and gives to me, a new version of it every year. And I challenge you to find anybody else in the state, basketball, football, baseball, I don't care what sport, that has a better set of records than what they've kept. It's
It is
unbelievable.
fantastic.
It can't be. Yeah, it could only be equaled maybe, but not top.
They have fathers and sons scoring, brothers
Yeah,
scoring.
that's pretty cool.
Oh, really? All kinds of crazy stuff.
It's,
Yeah, we'll
I'll
have to
send
show
you.
it to you,
I'll
yeah.
send you a copy of it just because and then she does the same thing for the GCL website. There's a records tab out there on our website. If you go out there, it's got the whole
Right,
history.
I've seen that.
She does
handles
that. She does that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane. It's great information, and we're fortunate. Our football program doesn't have those kind of stats because they didn't have the continuity with the coaches, and so things kind of slipped through the cracks over the years, and so
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, and we're lucky to have it.
Well,
Yeah,
Jeff,
well,
go ahead.
I'll be looking. I'm glad Coach Petro was there to see this.
Yes.
It's,
Yes.
when coaches don't live forever, as we found out this past week.
Yeah.
It was, sad to see Coach Donaher go, but yeah, it was great to see. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun
Hey,
talking to you.
Have fun, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, have a good time tonight.
I'll
at
be
the
down there
Dragons game.
sometime soon. I'll let you know when I'm heading down.
Okay.
Really appreciate
Cool.
having you on, and hope to have you on again sometime soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll
Take
talk to
care.
you guys later.
Safe.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you,
Bye.
Jeff. And of course, that was Jeff Gilbert. Covers Ohio State football for PressProsMagazine.com and also writes for the Dayton Daily News here in town. So, Mike, always great to have Jeff on.
It is great. He's everywhere, man. He's quickly
is.
becoming
He is.
Mr. Ubiquitous number 2. He is everywhere. He was at UD Arena that whole weekend.
He was.
Just creating tremendous amount of really good content. And we're fortunate, a couple of years ago when I actually went over and talked to him and started our little relationship with him. And we're fortunate that we've gotten a little closer with him, and he's able to join us like he does on here. And he's fantastic, man. And what people forget, or maybe you and I don't, but that's not his main job. He is a professor, a
at
journalism
Cedarville.
professor at Cedarville. That's his day job. He does all this other stuff on the side. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how he finds time, but he is. He's everywhere, and I don't know how he does it. He must have like Star Trek powers. He can just show up
He's
somewhere.
talented. He's really talented.
Well, Mike, we have just a few minutes left. Wanted to touch base a little bit on the NFL draft that's coming up. Of course, you're a Browns fan. I'm a Bengals fan. But
do we agree on anything?
Probably we agree on a lot of stuff.
I mean,
not
do we have common teams?
Reds,
Alter,
Reds, and that's probably about it.
Dayton basketball.
Well, UD basketball,
There we go.
absolutely.
All right, we do have some common ground.
But I wanted to ask you what you thought, were the most needs, or what was the number one need for the Browns? I know the talking heads had a few ideas of where they wanted the Browns to go.
Well, first of all, they don't have a first round draft pick. They gave a lot of draft picks away to Houston to get Massage Watson, but they need to bolster their interior defensive line, create some depth there. I think they need a little depth at linebacker. I do think they could use a little depth at offensive line, and I would anticipate, if they have a chance to pick somebody they really like, to get a good, premium wide receiver, just because Amari Cooper is heading into his free agent year. And so they're going to need to probably prepare for that a little bit. They traded and got Jerry Jeudy, who I think is going to be really good. But, so I think interior line, look for them to get a couple dudes there, maybe a linebacker or two, maybe an offensive lineman or two, and maybe if they can get a really good wide receiver, and maybe it's a middle round dude, I don't know. But I think they'll bolster their wide receiver crew a little bit, especially if they can get someone highly rated early. To me, that's kind of where they're going to go. They're set just about everywhere else.
And I mean, you pretty much nailed it as far as what the pundits are saying. Offensive tackle, linebacker, and defensive line are what they thought were the biggest Brown needs. For the Bengals, I think it's offensive and defensive tackle. I think they need a cornerback, and they need to add some more depth at wide receiver because they're going to lose Boyd. I think they put the franchise tag on T. Higgins, and I think he has said he's going to play. He's not going to hold out.
Right.
So I would guess they're probably going to lose him after this year.
Yep.
But I think they need to fill that void that Boyd is going to leave, because Higgins does have a tendency of getting banged up a little bit during the season.
Yeah, and everybody wants to be deep at wide receiver, not just with numbers, but with quality. And the Bengals have been known for drafting really good wide receivers for years now. And look at the guys they've got now. So I would agree with you. I'd expect them to get somebody pretty good at that position early if they can find somebody that somebody comes to them, lands in their spot that they really like.
Well, they do have the 18th pick, and then they'll have the 49th, 80th, the 97th, and then a couple more.
Is there a more
I know what you're going to say.
overhyped thing than the NFL draft?
It is all marketing. I'm telling you,
ridiculous.
They space things out.
Overhyped, man.
It really is, and I was going to ask you about that too.
Bull crap too.
I like watching maybe the first round, or maybe like the first 10 picks. But you're exactly right. I mean, it is overhyped, but it's all marketing. I mean,
well, you've got all these agents out there putting crap out, and then you got teams, putting crap out, and nobody knows who's people. There are guys predicting trades and all this business. I mean, they've consumed the last 3 or 4 weeks, national radio and ESPN and Fox on TV have consumed a tremendous amount of bandwidth talking about the NFL draft. It's just the most overhyped thing, and I'm not a big fan of it. I just back in the day, I would just wait till the paper came out the next day, and I'd look at who they got. But sorry, I'm not that big of an NFL fan to get that fired up on the draft. But,
I know where the Bengals were picking, so I'll maybe channel surf and then go back when I think they're going to pick.
Now they're holding these things in these venues where tens of thousands of people are showing up for the weekend. They're selling out hotel rooms.
It's insane, and they all dress up.
And they all dress up and act like idiots. I don't know. It's the most overhyped, meaningless, weekend of sports that I can think of.
Well, and they do have the regular crew, and now they have the college football crew, and they've added Saban. They've added Saban to the commentary.
Fox, I believe, has added, or no, Pat McAfee is going to do a thing, and he's got Bill Belichick that's going to be on with him. So, there's no shortage of opportunities to watch and listen to what goes on.
Yeah.
Where is it this year? I don't even know.
It is in Detroit.
Okay.
It is in Detroit,
Okay,
so
well,
they're
I'm not-
moving it
I'm
around.
not
but
driving up to go there.
you are absolutely right. It is really a hyped.
And while we're on,
But they do a good
confusing-
job. You got to give the NFL credit. They do a good job with marketing the product, and they space out the events. So pretty much the NFL is a yearly thing.
Yeah, and while we're on confusing topics, and this is way off the subject though, but you know those things that when you like want to go to log into a website and they pop up these pictures and they say click on the box that has a picture of a bike in it or a boat or a stop sign.
Yeah.
They're getting hard.
To prove that you're not a
They're,
robot.
they're getting hard. I never get it right the first time anymore. It's like one of the times they were asking about bikes and there was a sign with a bike on it. And I didn't pick it because it was a sign with the bike on it and I got it wrong. I'm like, what, when did these things get so complicated all of a sudden? I mean, they're hard. I almost never get it right the first time. And especially when I'm looking at my phone and I can't see anyways. I mean, what is that all about?
Well, what gets me upset too is then they'll ask a question that you have supposedly answered sometime in the past, like who's your best friend or something.
Yeah.
And you add it and they tell you it's wrong.
Especially if you don't spell it wrong or don't use capital letters.
Yeah, those
But
things
text
are
me the next
extremely-
time you try to log into a website and they pop up that puzzle thingy.
Okay.
And they ask you about bridges. Click all the boxes that have bridges in them.
What did they have? Was one picture Jeff Bridges?
I guarantee you will not get it right the first time.
All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind. Mike, I wanted to go to maybe the point of the show that I kind of enjoy the most, and that is yes, no, maybe. And I got some statements here, and you and I will go back and forth and let everybody know whether we agree, disagree, or possibly agree. But the first one tonight is Caitlin Clark should have used her last year of eligibility and stayed at Iowa instead of entering the WNBA.
Absolutely not. I mean, although I don't know if she could have got this contract, but she just did a $20 million deal with Nike. She's going to make $80,000 as her salary in her first year of the WNBA, which tells you a lot about the WNBA. But she's got a $20 million deal with Nike. Now, I don't know if she could have got that if she had stayed at Iowa. But no, man, it's time for her to move on. And, I don't know if there's some side things going on to pay her more besides the Nike deal than what she's getting from her contract with the WNBA. Her contract's a joke. Yeah. Her first 4 years compared to what she's going to be making away from the game. So no, I say no. She did the right thing.
I'm going to say maybe, just because I can certainly understand both ways. Maybe it's time that she wants a different challenge, wants to do something different, but I think she can make more money at Iowa, to be honest with you, than she's making there. But you're right. I mean, it's kind of 6 in one, half dozen in the other. She probably wanted a new challenge.
She would have had to take a class, right?
Well, exactly. She may not feel like going to school.
A class.
She's never going to have to take another class in her entire life unless she wants to.
No.
But, she said. Second, the Cincinnati Reds will make the playoffs in 2024.
Just got swept out in Seattle. They went 0-3 out there. They're headed to, I think, wherever the Angels are nowadays, and then they're going to play the Angels. And I'm going to go no. Their over-under number in terms of what Vegas set that at the beginning of the season was right around 80. And I saw some other very highly thought of websites that picked, finishes, and most of them had the Reds in the third or fourth spot of their division. So I'm going to go no. I don't see any reason yet or so far to believe that they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs.
I'm going to go no as well. I just think they run out of gas, and I don't know if they have enough pitching. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I eat the biggest piece of crow pie in the world, because I'd absolutely love to see them at least make it.
Yeah, they got off to a bad start. That one dude got suspended for getting caught using PEDs, and then there was a couple of bad injuries, and so they didn't get off to a great start in terms of their overall roster. I hope you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I desperately want them to make the playoffs, but if I had to bet right now today, sitting here, I would say no.
Third statement, this one's a little bit ambiguous, I would say, but we'll go with it. The portal and NIL will ruin college athletics within 2 years unless something is done very quickly in regards to oversight.
I mean, it depends on how you define ruin.
Yeah, it may already be.
I don't like the direction it's going.
I don't either.
I don't like where it's probably going to end up. until I could see some evidence that they're going to do something to restrict movement portal-wise and to do something to get their arms around NIL. I don't know what that is or how they should do that, but it feels still today, and we've been saying this for a couple years already, like the wild, wild west. I can't even keep track. There's like, how many kids are in the portal for basketball now? 2,000?
It's insane.
Or some ridiculous number. And I don't like the direction it's going. And I'm not going to say it's going to ruin stuff, but it's certainly not going to look anything like it did 5, 10, or 15 years ago.
It's hard for me to answer this because I think it is going to be ruined unless they do something. I don't know. You hear rumors that there are committees being put together to try to figure out some way of having some oversight, but I think the NCAA has pretty much made themselves irrelevant at this point. But I don't think NIL was meant to be pay for play, and that is exactly what's happening right now. You and I talked a little bit about it earlier in the show, but you're right. You made a statement. If you're not doing it, you're going to fall behind, and you're going to be left in the dust.
And I hate the notion, and I'm an Ohio State fan, and I'm okay with what they're doing, but I hate the notion that you can, quote unquote, buy a roster, football or basketball. I really wish there was more, like a salary cap, right? I mean, the salary cap kind of levels the playing ground. I wish they had some kind of concept like that. But I mean, for now, it is what it is, and if you can't afford to participate or willing to do it, then you're not going to win. So
Final one for the night, Mike. Augusta National, where they play the Masters, is the greatest golf course ever designed.
I mean, there's some that are pretty nice out there internationally, but just in terms of the whole format, what it looks like, how it plays, in the tradition and history behind it, I'm going to say yes. Yeah. It's got to be the most famous golf course outside of Europe. I mean, some of those over there. But I'm going to go yes. I mean, it's hard to argue with it, and it's a tough course. These guys aren't, they moved the tees back this year, made it a little bit harder, and the putting is incredibly hard. I never seen so many missed 6-foot putts in my life, and these are the best guys putters in the world. So I agree. I think it's design, everything about it, the aesthetics, all of it is the best.
Yeah, I will ditto everything that you just said. And the fact that they play the Masters at Augusta every year, it's the only major tournament that's played at the same location. I think it is such a beautiful course, and it's such a neat course because it presents challenges. It allows you to take risks, but I just think it is, and especially since it is an inland course. It's not on a coast. The beauty is just unbelievable, but I think it is the greatest course.
In terms of watching it on TV, man, they got to do something about that theme music. I mean, I can't help but think about a funeral home when that music comes on.
Well, it's tradition.
When I walk into a funeral home, I think of the Masters. Unfortunately, it might be tradition. I mean, they need to upgrade it, make it a little bit more upbeat and not so funeral home like.
Yeah, it's like everything else. Everything's tradition there. So I don't give them a call, Mike. Maybe they'll.
I'll have to look at my Spotify list and see if I can come up with some new suggestions.
Yeah, and I did put kind of together a real quick list though of other courses that I thought were beautiful. Pebble Beach, certainly. The Old Course. Over in, I think that's in Scotland, if I'm remembering correctly. Torrey Pines, Bethpage Black, and Muirfield Village here in Columbus, Ohio. Some other just beautiful courses here that I think certainly could compete with Augusta National, but for my money, Mike, it's Augusta National. And Mike, I know that you had an announcement that you wanted to give the folks here tonight.
I did. Today is opening day for the Thursday Night Mowing League, and I want to give some shout-outs to my guys out there particularly T.J. Bulmer, who's down in Cincinnati, also known as Timmy Two Cuts 513, the defending national champion. I want to give him a shout out and tell him, congratulations for winning it last year. And also my buddy out in Mount Zion, Illinois, Dustin Fink, who does some great things. His team 121 this year, and he does a great job, great content. I highly recommend everybody figure out a way to get out there. Check us out on Twitter at ThursdayNightMowingLeague.com, and I want to tell everybody, good luck this season, and hopefully you all get it done and produce quite a bit of content that we can all share. And thanks to my guy up in Toledo, Joe Kinsey, for being the commissioner, and we are underway.
All right, folks. Thank you, Mike. Thursday Night Mowing League. We'll certainly keep an eye on that. But, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Gamecast Radio Sports Talk. Mike, always appreciate your company, and maybe we'll see you next weekend. We're gonna be a little bit off and on over the summer, but we'll be putting out some content, and we have some other things planned, but we'll inform you of those different ideas as we go along.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a little bit slow in the summertime, so just have baseball and maybe a little bit of golf, but we'll cook something up. And we can start talking about, once it gets a little bit further along, the NBA playoffs. I don't watch much of the regular season, but the playoffs are interesting. Playoffs? You talking about playoffs? The playoffs are interesting, especially when they get down to the last couple rounds, and we'll have something to talk about there.
All right, folks, have a great night, and we'll see you next time on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.